if you've been following me for any length of time at all, you probably know how I feel about YouTube, specifically YouTube's moderation and how YouTube treats content creators, which I think, in summary, is awful. However, I do appreciate YouTube and Rumble and other similar platforms for what they offer, which is the ability for any of you to be a filmmaker. I mean, these days with technology, you have free editors like DaVinci Resolve Free that can do a lot for free. The quality of video that cell phones shoot, I mean, it's unbelievable. The only thing you should probably spend money on is audio gear. That's pretty important, and probably like lighting gear. Outside of that, I think the barrier to entry to become an independent filmmaker is pretty low, to be honest. So I do appreciate on YouTube that there are people like this. So what I'm going to start doing is actually talking about a lot of these independent documentaries that I come across on YouTube that I personally really enjoy, and I want to share them with you. So the first one here is by Crossroads America. They're 2 students, 1 van, 50 states in 1 summer is their little tag here. Now, I went to their website. Currently, it's down. They have not paid their domain bill. But what we're going to do is I'm actually going to cover one of their documentaries they did, which I thought was very interesting. It's short. It's just under 17 minutes. It's called Inside America's Most Brutal Industry, which is, the fishing industry. That is a very demanding industry. Those men work very hard, and even some ladies. So anyways, I'm going to play just a little bit of this documentary because I want people to actually go watch this for themselves and, give these young men some views. They've worked very hard.
Good. I didn't want to be a captain. I didn't want the headache. I'm 40. I've been on deck since I was 12. I've never seen the inside of a high school. I don't know what it looks like. School just wasn't for me. I grew up on an island, so if I missed the bus to school, I got to spend all day on the beach. My mother would lock me out, and I don't care, And then that got into getting into trouble and yada yada. By the time I was 14, I had a permanent job on a commercial fishing vessel.
This guy, the captain, who's pretty much like the main person they talked to in this whole documentary, is a very interesting man. At 40 years old, he's quite a bit younger than me, but yet seems so much older. And I guess time on the sea will do that to somebody. I do understand where he's coming from. I never felt school was for me. I never finished high school myself. I was out of high school and on my own by 15. Though not working on a commercial fishing vessel full time, I was working as a butcher. So I could relate in some ways to the captain. This man is a very hard worker. You get that sense just by listening to him talk. A very no BS person. And
I just stayed, and I never left. I was comfortable on deck. I accept responsibility. Not only we got to catch fish, we got to make money and all that stuff. But if somebody gets hurt, somebody does something stupid, if somebody that I don't know comes on the boat using drugs or something, all that, any of that, I take full responsibility of that. So if somebody falls over the boat or if they get hurt, you're taking responsibility of their souls.
How has that?
So I'm going to stop it right there. If you're interested in this, if this little bit of hearing the captain talk interests you, please get these guys a view, give them a like. I really appreciate these young people going out and pursuing their dreams and making these short films. And I thought this was very interesting. It's short. It's just under 17 minutes. I think there is a deeper story about this captain, even the crew. I think they just barely scratch the surface. They don't really go out with them on boat. I would have loved to have seen something more in depth, like going back and meeting the families, because they talk about being away from their families. I would like to hear from the families. And just a little more of the backstory, a lot of the crew, like how they ended up where they're at. I think it's very interesting. Now, granted, this captain seems like a real no BS person. I think it was a stretch for him just to invite a camera crew onto his boat. I appreciate that he did that, and he shared a little bit about himself. He probably would get very annoyed with the camera crew out with him fishing. Probably want to throw him overboard at some point. He seems like, I would not say short-tempered, but he's very focused. He's very driven. He's feeling a lot of pressure, and that's probably not something he would want to deal with. But man, if they could like stash some GoPros in the cabin, just record this guy when he's out, that'd be amazing. So I think there's a deeper story here, and that's what I find is interesting. Like, I want to know more. And unfortunately, I don't know if we'll ever get to learn more about this man and his crew. But this little documentary, this little short, it did make me want more. So I want to share that with you. Links will be in the description, of course. The next documentary, and there's kind of a theme to these two videos, which is the water. So first is a fishing crew, and the second one is by Eric Swanson. He's got a larger channel. He's 155,000 subscribers as of filming this video. And the video that he covers it's called Erasing a Culture. This is kind of personal to me. He actually covers something that I want to do. So he covers the anchor outs in Sausalito, California. So this is Sausalito. It's just north of San Francisco. And for decades, there's been a group of people that live on, kind of derelict boats out here in this harbor full time. They don't pay any rent, don't do anything. I actually got to meet some. So I knew someone who actually lived in this marina district around here in Sausalito. I used to work with them. He had a very interesting boat called the Top Hat. I wonder if I can find a picture of it. Sausalito boat, Top Hat. There's a few pictures left of it around. It looked cool. It handled terribly, actually. He hardly ever took it out. I just found him the other night because I was going to share it with you all. But the boat essentially looks like a top hat. And I have a friend that lived on it for quite a few years in Sausalito. And so I actually got to meet some of these people. And this was a documentary that I wanted to do, on kind of documentary reality show. Like, I didn't know exactly what the show was going to be, but I wanted to go film and document their lives. And now I cannot find the picture of the boat. It's a very interesting boat. It looks cooler than it handles. So I'm sorry, I had it up the other night on my cell phone. I thought it would cache. Kind of disappointing. Anyways, we'll jump back. So people lived out here, and way before the pandemic, I met some. And when I left the studio, I wanted to, I made a couple connections, and I wanted to film their lives. And I started hanging around the marina of Sausalito, trying to reconnect with them. Then the pandemic hit, and everyone came into lockdown. I have a kid who's immunocompromised, so I chose not to spend time cooped up on derelict boats with people I didn't know. I was definitely fearful of bringing something home. So I sidelined the show that I wanted to do. And then when the pandemic started to clear out, everything started to open back up. What happened was Sausalito, the harbor masters, they finally passed a law that allowed the authorities to start confiscating these derelict boats floating around in the water. And there's very few people left out there now. And so the documentary that he covered is basically what's left of the people still living in Sausalito Bay. And there's not many left. In fact, the ones that I had met before the pandemic, by the time that I returned after the pandemic, tried to find them, I had learned that their boats had been confiscated, pulled in the shore, and destroyed. I don't know where they're at anymore. So anyways, we're going to watch the intro to this.
Us for 40 years now, at least.
In a small arm of San Francisco Bay lies a unique community whose way of life is being threatened.
They don't want to see us taking care of ourselves.
Local authorities have been crushing the boats they call home, aiming to end this alternative lifestyle.
This is a way of life. This is a culture.
Now, only a handful of people remain. the last vestiges of a community adrift.
Yep. So they're called the Anchor Outs, and that's what I was going to call my show, the Anchor Outs. I didn't really know exactly what it would be. It would be reality, documentary, but I thought it was very interesting. These people that kind of live on the fringe of society. You know, Sausalito's very wealthy. In fact, on the other side of the bay is where Robin Williams used to live. So it's interesting to see like all this big money in yachts around this harbor, these expensive homes, and then right in the middle of it floating, where I would not call them homeless. They had homes. They lived the lives they chose to live. People that wanted to live on the fringe society, they didn't want to pay absurd rental fees. And you talk to some people, they have full-time jobs. Like they work in construction. They're like, I don't want to pay a ton of money and live in a crappy little apartment I can barely afford. I want to be on the water too. I want my home, but I don't want to be house poor. Now, some of the people I talked to, that was their perspective. They're just like, hey, I don't want to hurt anyone. I just want to be left alone. And so people, they chose to live like this year round in that harbor. I definitely respect that. I mean, my friend who lived in the docks, there were days that he came into work in the studio. He just drained because there would be like storms. So a lot of swell, and Top Hat, his boat would just be throwing around, and he would not be able to sleep all night long. So I think people lived out in this full time, even though they're in a harbor. It's the Golden Gate Bridge and Pacific is literally right around the corner. You know, if I go to Google Maps, you'll see this. So there it is, right? Golden Gate. This gets pretty choppy. This bay will get pretty choppy. So anyways, I thought this was a very interesting documentary. He had spent a little more time talking to people. I don't know if he has got a longer version on a private channel or something you have to pay for. I would love to see more and learn more about these people, but I do appreciate people like Eric getting out there. He was able, somewhat jealous. I would have loved to have made my movie, but I'm glad somebody did. So, bravo to Eric. I want to give Eric some recognition, and we'll share a link to his video down in the description. If you've never heard of the Anchor Outs, I suggest looking into it. There's another, just to add to this, there was another documentary. I think Vice did it. Just to add to this, a little bit extra. Yep. So this is another one. I'll leave. This is a shorter 10 minutes, but it covers the Anchor Out community. And I just think they're a very interesting group of people that that rub some of the millionaires of Sausalito the wrong way just by existing. I appreciate that. I do. Anyways, I just want to share with you all some recommendations for some independent short films. Granted, this is Vice, is not independent, but
for
Eric Swanson and Crossroads America, these two videos, I love this kind of content. Some people have asked what inspires me. Honestly, a lot of this. It's not always the big Hollywood productions. It's work like this that really inspires me. That's like, hey, there's no excuse except for the lack of time. I have all the gear. I just don't have the time. That's my only excuse. But seeing this inspiration, people are still going out there and making very captivating short films, and they can put them on YouTube. And that's great, unless YouTube treats them like they've treated me in the past. That would not be great. Anyways, I wanted to share this all with you. If you have any really cool independent documentaries, like on YouTube or other platforms you want to share, please leave it in the comments. I watch a lot of these. I want to start covering them a little bit more, giving them some recognition, some spotlight, getting some traffic, some more viewers, because I do want to support my fellow independent creators. Well, that is all I have for this video. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you again next time.